Hello, welcome to Invisible Walls. I'm not Ryan Stevens. He's on vacation. He is clubbing in Ibiza. He is probably in a big foam nightclub right now, getting on down with glow sticks or whatever, being burnt to a crisp under the Ibizan sun. Because he doesn't drink and he's vegetarian. And
Oh, he drinks.
He drinks?
Yeah, you have to force him to, but he'll do it.
Okay. Well, anyway, he's probably whacked out of his gourd somewhere. But anyway, he's having a good time. Deservedly so. Everybody needs a break after E3. But we still have an awesome show, and that's not just because I'm here. My best friend ever and total Xbox One soulmate, Jeremy Hoffman's here. And then Patrick Morales is here as well.
Listening to vibrations going on somewhere.
That's GTTV Titanfall being cut right upstairs, and those are titans dropping out of the air, I think is what we're hearing.
Oh, Lord. All right, so we did have a show planned, but in the best traditions of the internet and shows in general, Microsoft came out on Wednesday and did their best to screw up our show for the week. They obviously announced that they have done a 180. Xbox
Full 180
One.
on DRM.
Yeah, DRM goes by. Region lock goes by. What else have they done away with?
Family sharing.
Family sharing has gone.
I mean, there's some good and some bad, right? As with all news.
It's interesting that we were talking about this, in the warm up, and initially it was, family sharing is a really great idea. Family sharing is a really great idea, but then once the details kind of got explained, that you're not sharing the
great after all.
Yeah, you're not sharing the full game. You're sharing a 45-minute to an hour time demo from the full game. So that's basically about the first hour of any game. Which why don't they have the demos? I mean, whatever happened to having a time lock demo? Because I think it's smart to say, all right, Patrick, I've got this game. You can play the first 45 minutes to an hour, and if you like it, it'll take you to the marketplace so you can digitally download it.
Well, I mean, just hearing about it after the fact kind of makes sense, because could you imagine having 10 people that buy tons of games and sharing your library fully without restriction with them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was going to be people completely, all of a sudden, somehow you and I are now related, and
Right.
how was that verification going to work? Was it going to be
Exactly. And at first I thought maybe it meant 10 people to a household, which kind of makes sense, within maybe the same IP range. That seemed a little bit more feasible, but if it were really 10 people without
It was
restriction
10
anywhere
people
in the world,
all over America. I think it was basically locked to your region.
Yeah,
Did they ever get into the details though?
Well, this is the other problem we've had with
they
Microsoft.
never got into any of the details.
Yeah, I mean they couldn't tell, find their ass with a map right now. In that, they just cannot communicate to anybody anything. I mean,
I still think this goes back to people not prepared for social media, not prepared for the internet. This is the first console launch from Microsoft and Sony since Twitter and Facebook have actually had the power that it does today.
Yeah.
Right? Last time, sure, when the last consoles came around, there was Facebook. Twitter wasn't
even
you used to text message people.
Twitter
barely.
wasn't
It was
even around in
beta,
2005, was it?
No.
It was 2006.
6 and 7. I think it was 6 because I was still at my old job when that happened. So I think it's just people, and this is the point that I think I was trying to make last time on the show, that people loved me so much for, is that we're in a world now with iPhones and other products where you come out and all this news is out day one. Mm-hmm. And Microsoft has, and Sony, and Nintendo, when they had their console launch, had 5 or 6 kind of major hits planned, right? I don't know how many. I think I was at 3 different Wii U events where they were press conferences, plus E3. Microsoft obviously plans on that. We're hearing rumors of big stuff coming out of Gamescom. They're back at Gamescom this year, so they're going to have another hit there. And I think they thought, hey, we're going to be able to give you a tiny bit of information, and then we'll dribble that information out instead of focusing on, hey, we're going to talk about all these features, give you all the information, but we maybe won't talk about these features until we're ready to tell you everything about it. Probably would have been the smarter way for them to do it.
Well,
but they just try to scattershot everything and say more information's coming later, which doesn't work in this age anymore.
They kicked off with the wrong information for the gamers,
right?
And we had this discussion after the launch. And anybody tuning in to hear me rip the shit out of Jeremy or whatever, it's not going to happen. We're going to have a conversation.
We're friends.
Yeah, we are. We're special, even though he's wearing Google Glass, for fuck's sake.
Wow.
Do you think that maybe just the kind of scattershot way that Microsoft poorly delivered its, the Xbox One use speaks to the fact that this was probably a piece of hardware that they were not ready to unveil yet.
No, I would say I think it just comes down to planning. I think Sony. Look at how what happened after Sony did their reveal. People were like, "I want to know about the console. I want to know about the price. I want to know about the launch date." That's never happened in the past, where they come out with a reveal and give you all the information.
Yeah,
we're in a new world now.
But that's the thing. The questions that people were asking out of Sony were generally positive questions,
Right.
and that they wanted to know more. Microsoft out the gate, May 21st. Was it 21st, 22nd? Whatever it was, it seems like a year ago.
It feels forever ago.
But they came out the gate and didn't cater to their current demographic, which is they cater to their future demographic.
Well, I think
the way they want to go.
did cater to their
Well, no,
demographic.
look,
it's guys that watch Netflix on their console and Call of Duty players.
And I think that
Football.
demographic is not that's not the only demographic that's built the console and has had people. I mean, maybe a lot of that demographic has switched to Sony. That original Xbox demographic, because over the last 3 years, Microsoft have really stepped away from the hardcore gamer. But they came out with the wrong information and then just continued to misstep all the way through last week. I had conversations last week with two people from Microsoft. One who both I've worked with before. One who basically said to me, "Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this direction," and then somebody else, and this was 2 days into the show. Yeah, well, people only hear about the games. We're not going to talk about any of the other issues. They're non-existent. It's all about the games. Once now that people are seeing the games, they love the console. And this fucking mentality that some of these people have, which is just, I'm not going to question anything from my mighty Microsoft overlords. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid over and over. That is one of the reasons they walked into this shitstorm in the beginning, because they don't have anybody there with what I like to refer to as a spine. And it's been a case of, this is our vision. We're in blinker mode. And look, I'm the biggest hater of a lot of things, including focus tests. I'm not saying
Right.
this should have been focus tested, but it's one of those things. If I put out, you executive producer, Noid Gamer, I put something out to you. You ask me the questions to justify it. I explain to you, we're good. We're on the same page. We move forward. If I can't answer the questions properly, then it doesn't make it into the show, because there's no point putting it out there. Microsoft don't seem to have anybody right now who is turned around to Don Matrick and say, "Don, this is what's going wrong. This is the feedback we are getting," and they should have had that before the reveal. They should have been prepping for this as soon as Sony unveiled, and to come, you come and you explain stuff, and you're clear, and you basically explain it better than I do right now. But you get my drift.
Yeah. Well, I think also, like, there's 2 points with that. A, they're not going to tell you or I everything, right? Like, we just don't. We're the enemy. We're press. So you're not.
Well, we're
what
the
they're
enemy,
telling-
and everybody out here who's watching this show, because they are not the demographic who are all Call of Duty and all NFL fantasy league players and Netflix streamers. These guys are the enemy as well.
I'm just saying that they're not going to. What they tell us versus what they actually feel isn't always right, which isn't always what's actually going on internally. And I think you get to a point where, I was talking to a lot of guys. I got back late last night from a shoot, and we were talking about this news. I think it's just they've been put into a position where I don't think anyone wanted to do consoles this year. I think if we would have had consoles 2 years ago, did a normal 5-year console cycle, no one would have even been talking about digital downloads. It still would have been all retail, right? And then we get to the point where in 5 years from 2 years ago, so 3 years from now, we'll have new consoles. Most people are on the internet. Most people are digitally downloading. The world is changing faster. You're having fiber come in to a lot of cities. Like, I think they're in a spot where they're kind of stuck in this time zone where they're having to do everything for everyone, and it's put them in a spot where they would like to push the future forward and just go all digital, but can't happen, and they know that. Just with how internet works.
We know the future is all digital. We've discussed it on this show so many times over the years. It's like, it's 5 years from now, 7 years from now, going back to 2008. But we know that 2013 is not an all digital.
Oh, I agree.
Neither is 2014. 2015, we'll probably start to see it evolve. And in 2016, that's when I think Microsoft will flip that switch again, and we will come back to the practices that we've been, they originally put out there, and we will be in a better position to understand it and enjoy it and really appreciate it. But Microsoft right now just can't communicate.
Right. Oh, I agree.
They so misjudged the climate that we've gone from something that we've had as gamers for 20 years or so. In the way that we can lend stuff and DRMs has been creeping in, but we've gone from that to them wanting just this total sea change that nobody was prepared for.
Right.
Yeah, I think just the most off-putting thing about everything is that not just because it's $100 more or because there's Kinects required or even because of the DRM, but for me the most annoying thing is that Microsoft has assumed this arrogant kind of position, almost as if to say, we know what's good for you. We know what you want. So just take this without any questions.
But isn't that every console manufacturer when they're winning and they switch into the next generation?
Yeah, I mean, they happened to the PS3.
They all do it, right? Like Nintendo.
Exactly.
Consolitis.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo did it with the N64.
Yeah.
That went a little bit screwy.
The PS3,
and then
going
the
into
PS3
it.
PS3
when they came out of $5.99, everyone was just like mind melting.
Do you remember that? Like the PS3 was a crazy Blu-ray media experience.
Yeah, and I even said last time on the show, the PS2, we had to sit there and on the PS2 press conference, listen about the DVD player.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I bought a PS2. Back when I was starting college, I was like, well, am I going to buy a DVD player? That was like back in the day when DVD players launched and they were $300, or am I going to buy a console? And I was like, well, I'm going to buy a console. It doesn't have really any games I want to play right at launch. But I'll have this cool DVD player and I'll play games later.
Didn't the PS2 also have that initial backwards compatibility with the PS1?
Yes,
it did. So
yes.
you did have your whole armory of games.
Oh, totally.
That you could bring with you.
And
so
that
it
all
wasn't
comes down to. I mean, they're all doing the same thing, where it's like everyone's going closer to a PC, right? So the architecture, you can't just. Everyone loves saying flip a switch and make those old games work. Sony's having the same issue. They've said they're going to solve that issue with Gaikai.
Well,
cloud stuff. That's not coming till, sounds like,
who knows,
launch window, but we don't know when that means.
Streaming stuff is going to be cool.
Yep.
But
you need internet for that.
Well, yeah, again, you do need internet. And like I said, and I've said this all along, we have always, everybody at this table has kick-ass internet. But a lot of people don't. Yeah. And like I said on Night Gamer last week, Microsoft took a lot of credit for ushering in the HD TV era and making people buy HD TVs to get the best experience. And you can save up to get a HD TV. You can't save up to get better internet if it's not available in your area.
Correct. Yeah.
So
and I think, it's showing. I think more than anything, it's showing the lack of just infrastructure in all of these countries. Like, no one's pushing this shit forward.
This fucking country.
But everywhere. I'm just saying everywhere.
We're talking about everywhere, but I mean, my mum, I've said this before, my mum in the UK has a better and cheaper broadband, connection at her house, which is a small village 9 miles outside of Swansea in Wales, which, she's had a better one than I've had ever since I moved to Los Angeles, and now we've got a business account with a healthy line going in, and it's still not the best.
I mean, I have 2 lines going into my house because I live with 3 other dudes that all we do is play games. So you try to get 4 guys playing multiplayer games at the same time.
No, it just takes the drain. But Microsoft I think we all agree they badly misjudged the situation. I think they do need somebody there who is going to be almost like a voice of reason, who is going to, because every company needs a devil's advocate at the highest level to say, all right, justify this to me. I don't get it. What are the questions?
What I keep hearing from them also is, we have cool stuff to show you guys. We could show you how it's going to work. We're just not ready to show it yet. And it's like, well, then don't announce it.
Yeah. Well, don't
say you have it. Right. Like, I think it's the issue right now that people are still confused about, like, cloud. The power of the cloud. What the fuck does that mean? Right? So show us. Like, and we were talking to Respawn. I saw a good Giant Bomb video going around with Gerstmann talking to Vince, and he said, what's it do for you? And they said, well, for us, it just means we're not going to have dedicated servers in every single country. We could use the cloud any way we want, and that's how we're going to use it. And I think they need to have developers come in and say, here's what we could do. Here's what we're going to use with this thing. Here's how it's going to work. Same thing with Kinect, right? Like, we haven't seen any other than Fantasia, which I really enjoyed.
Fantasia's cool.
Yeah. It's fun. Like, I'm terrible, and I've told the Harmonix guys. Yeah. They make the games I enjoy playing the most that I am the worst at.
Yeah.
Like,
Super quick
I'm
sidebar.
terrible at those games. I see why they're fun. I
Yeah.
really enjoy it. People have a good, they're always having fun with those games. I think Fantasia is, luckily it's not as like hardcore as something like Dance Central, where if you're not getting the moves down, it's not completely screwing you.
It is more freeform.
It's more freeform.
Yeah.
But so don't say, hey, we have a console that's $100 more than the competitor. The reason why is we're including this HD camera. We'll tell you why you need it later. Show me 6 games. 5 games, 3 games, 2, maybe even 1. Like, this is what we've had this conversation just to like maybe address the elephant in the room of everyone thinking I'm a huge Xbox fanboy.
We've had this conversation in his office over and over.
I said before, right after the reveal, let's wait till the information comes out and wait till after E3. Well, they didn't come out with the information that I would have liked to see at E3. And so now that's why we're back.
Which means I was,
and I think Sony also had
right over and over again.
Well, I don't know about that. I said we want to see the information before I make a judgment
look,
call.
That's the thing. Everything I have said has been based on what they've released, information-wise, every time they've released it. And I'm not prepared, especially after the last 2 years of being an Xbox 360 owner, to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think there are still a lot of people out there who've said that this is, it's a positive move, but we still don't trust Microsoft.
Right.
And Microsoft have done a lot of negative damage. All damage is negative, but a lot of basically damage to their reputation. What can they do over the next 6 months to really repair that? So when we hit Xbox One,
so I
people
talked to
excited?
a couple guys last week at Xbox as well, and they were asking me what I thought. And I really told them, like, if you truly believe that Always On, which obviously has changed now, or whatever, Xbox Live is your killer app, right? This is the thing that everyone that really brings our system together. Give it away for free for a year. That'll shorten the gap between them and Sony in price point, right? Because now I don't know how Sony was able to announce that you're now having to pay for multiplayer, and people were still cheering at E3. That's how far ahead they were.
Yeah.
But I think that'll bring the gap closer together. It'll prove that they believe in their own system. That they want you to. Maybe it's 3 months. Maybe it's 6 months. Right on that Xbox One, the launch day edition. Give me gold for 3 months to prove why it's needed.
Yeah.
Right. Don't say, well, this is really cool. You should buy it.
I think they need to do it for longer than 3 months.
Whatever
just
it
to
is.
get people.
I mean, I'm just saying 6 months, a year, whatever it is.
Let's just go back to that Sony point, because I mean we've been accused of glossing over that Sony are now charging for multiplayer on the PS4.
I mean, I think Sony had some really good announcements, and they were smart enough to slide in a couple things that were like, you're not paying attention to this right now.
Well, they did slide that in, and I've got to say, I mean, again, I was one of these people who are like, hang on, did they just say that? Because I'm the biggest opponent of having to pay for Xbox Live to play any multiplayer games. I think it's ridiculous. I think the basic multiplayer should come free of charge on a console, just like it comes free of charge on a PC game.
Yep.
But the argument I have had back from a lot of people, which does tend to make a lot of sense, is that a lot of people have had PSN Plus for the last couple of years, and the fact that you get free games every month, and Microsoft are now catching up to that. But so it's PSN Plus is something that does offer a lot of value, and now Xbox Live, if they're going to do the free games once a month, that'll offer a lot more value. Microsoft Xbox Gold in its current form, or in its form as of 6-8 weeks ago, did not offer great value. I should have been able to watch Netflix, should have been able to play multiplayer games, basic, free of charge. Everything else, fluff it up. But I think they've evened the playing field there. But still, given the price difference, PS4 is still perceived as better value for money.
Yeah.
So, Patrick, what do you think they need to do?
Well, for me, even though they've come out with all these announcements, getting rid of the DRM, I feel like they're not even close to being back at zero. Like you said, they do have a lot of good graces to win back from people. I feel like, one, the price definitely needs to be addressed. That's still a huge concern. And two, I have to wonder if they are going to go back on things as radical as DRM. Do you think Kinect might be next on the chopping block?
No way.
Well, I'm hearing from our good friend Mr. Pactor.
Yeah.
He's been talking about this price drop that he thinks is going to happen next year, and I think that's when we'll see an Xbox One minus Kinect.
Here's the thing: like, I'm not trying to defend Kinect at all.
No,
but if you're going to include something into a system and you want developers to use it, you've worked on the dev side. If 1 out of 10 of your audience has that, you're not gonna put the money and the effort into doing it.
But the problem is they've sold so many of the original Kinect over the last 2 years. Xbox 360 has been the #1 seller. The Kinect was at $99. It was, but then it was bundled, and everybody, it went into so many households, and we know it did because we looked at the Just Dance and Dance Central and whatever other arm wavy pile of shit that they've put out has been. So we know they're out there, but all the games that have come out for the Kinect have done, as we said, has put more red in the ledger. They haven't done any major good. They haven't been any major jumps forward. Once you get through that initial gimmick of, oh, look, I'm dancing, and oh, I just broken my hip. Once you get over that initial mirth and merriment, it's lather, rinse, repeat. And nobody's done that. Nobody's shown and has built enough trust up with Kinect for us to actually, for it to be a valid reason for a console to be $100 more.
I agree.
And again,
I'm not like I said, I'm not disagreeing.
It goes back to the point you just said. Show us the Xbox.
Show me how it's gonna work, and I think if you have to be committed to it though, is the point, right? Like if you're not going to do it, it'd be like the Wii launching with a regular controller, then being like, but if you want to buy these motion things, go ahead and buy it. Like you just completely separate your audience at that point, which makes it hard to convince EA or Activision or anyone to make a title that uses that. So I remember I was asking. It was a while ago. I think it was right before Mass Effect 3 came out. I was talking to the Mass Effect team, and I asked them why add the Better with Kinect. And they're like, oh, well, it's just like it's for them, it was super easy just to add the voice because Microsoft had that voice library built. It was really easy. And they were like, for us, it was simple to do. So if Microsoft is going to create like these service packs for these developers to use this technology, and the technology comes with every single console, I think we have the opportunity to see something more interesting. Will I use it? I don't know. Will any of us use it? I don't know.
How long has the Kinect been around for anyway?
4 years now?
3
Like
or 4
09
years.
around?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like at this point, almost every big publisher has tried their hand at it, And have we seen one good example besides maybe Dance Central?
I mean, like, Nike, the Nike workout stuff is cool if that's what you want to do. It's like, we haven't seen it used for a game. And I think a lot of the problem is that
penetration?
Penetration and also technology. I think the current tech on Kinect is super limited. So hopefully with the new stuff and the HD and the being able to see in the dark and to isolate voice and to do everything that they're promising it could do, if that actually works, I think we have the opportunity to see some cool stuff.
Yeah. But going back to, devising a diabolical scheme to make the X-Bone, survive.
That's 2 weeks running. You called it X-Bone.
I don't care. I'll say it as many times as I want.
Good for you.
I would say lower the price, get rid of the Kinect, and I think the silver bullet would be finding out some way to make 360 games compatible.
Yeah, and I think that's going to have to come through streaming. We know how the hardware stuff works.
Well, OnLive is available for probably a cheapish price right now.
For no money.
Yeah.
And also, like, can we talk about the price thing? And I know, once again, I'm going to come off sounding like this asshole that just has too much money. Fair enough.
Well, you are.
You're
sitting there with fucking Google glasses on, for God's sake.
And I'm taking photos of you right now.
There you go.
So, no, but I think to spend $500 or $400 on a console that, fingers crossed, isn't going to red ring. Can't red ring because there's no red lights in it.
Red button this
right?
time.
But
it'll just turn on its
But
side.
something that should last for 6 years, maybe 7, maybe 8, right? I don't think it's that expensive. When you take that cost and you divide it by the amount of years. Is it too expensive for your average, maybe your average gamer? Possibly. But we also have to remember the same argument when everyone's like, $60 games are too expensive, that's why I pirate. And I see that argument a lot.
I've seen
These are luxury items. This isn't water, food, shelter, clothing.
I mean, consider ye olden days of the PC too, where your graphics card would be almost obsolete after a year or two.
Yeah. Or I mean, like, we have people on our floor upstairs that buy a new iPhone every year that it comes out, or an iPad twice a year. Right.
This is where I'm going to counter those particular arguments with the iPhone and the iPad. Yes, people will buy them every year. I mean, I've got an iPhone 5. I got it because I had the iPhone 4, not even the 4S, and it was time for an upgrade. We were changing.
That's every other year, though. I'm talking about the people that buy it every 6 months. They're not getting
those
their...
people are, one, they're fucking mental, but I don't think you can even compare that, even though it is a luxury goods. You can't compare it to a console because, again, how many $60 apps do you pay for on your iPhone, on your iPad? Because that is the thing. Are you paying? Yes, I know you're paying for your cell phone bill. I know you're paying for your data plan, but you're not getting as cool as the iPad is and as cool as the iPhone is, you are not getting a game like Titanfall or Destiny or the new was it the Evil Inside. You're not getting
Evil Within.
Evil Within. That's 2 weeks running I got that wrong, and I still like the game.
You are the Evil Inside.
I am the Evil Inside. Everybody, but you're not getting those with that. With this, with an iPhone, and you won't. You won't get those for another, 5-10 years.
So you need to spend money on hardware that could run those games, and that's going to be expensive.
But again,
so you just made my argument for me.
No, my point being is that my point being is, one, you're an idiot if you buy an iPad every year or an iPhone.
Well,
two, that you don't have the additional Uber costs involved with that $60
I don't know.
console experience.
How much is your cell phone bill a month?
Well,
I think I'm at like $110 a month. I'm spending more on a month on my cell phone than I am on games.
I have a Generation 1
iPad. We're not
iPad.
talking about all the money I've spent in Puzzles and Dragons in the last month buying Magic Crystal so I could continue to play.
I have an iPad 1.
Right.
I didn't get the one which was 3G at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I got a wireless one, so it connects to my wireless. Yeah. No additional charge. The most I've ever spent on a game is probably, I think I bought was it Rage HD, which was $4.99. But that's the thing. That's a scaled down experience on a console. Yeah, it is $500 over 6 years. But that $500 initial investment plus your $60 Xbox Live plus a couple of games, even if you just get 2 games with it, you're now into $720 before tax in America.
Which is
and then, hang on, let me finish. And then you look at the exchange rate, because Microsoft and Sony have done the classic fuck you Europe with we're going dollars to euros and then we're going dollars to pounds-ish, but we're taking $60 off. And it still means that the US equivalent comes in a shit ton cheaper than these other countries. So yeah, they are £500 or 500 euros, £425, $500 is a shitload of money for somebody.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right in saying that the consoles are a luxury item, but $100 between the two is a lot of money. Still,
but it's
that's practically 2 games.
It's $150 between them and the Wii U, though, and no one's even talking about that.
Well, I think the fact that nobody's talking about the Wii U is, the only good thing that's come out with regards to Wii U over the last couple of weeks was a comment from Reggie, and this is actually a good, I think, segue into the next thing I want to talk about, which is used games. And Reggie said, if you make your games good enough, they won't become used.
Right.
Because people will want to keep them, they will want to play them. And I have to take issue with a prominent member of the games industry who retired last year to drive around North Carolina in his fancy car and see the world because he'd worked very hard, deserved it, who is on a mission to bitch and moan week in, week out about used sales killing development. Now, if every developer wasn't driving around in a flash car, I'm not saying every developer is, but there are only a small amount of developers who do drive around in very flash cars and you get to jet around them.
I'd say most of them do.
I
go to development offices every week.
You see the very top tier.
Right. That's true.
I'm not talking about the coders, the art guys. You're talking people at the most senior level who are reaping the benefits, who have all this money. And when you get up to that level, the jobs are a few and far between. You are an expert in your field. You deserve to be compensated. But when I hear somebody like this screaming that the developers are getting screwed, and I see the disparity between the top end and the bonuses that these guys get from publishers and from continued sales, and I see what the average coder makes and the hours they put in and so on and so forth, and the fact that they don't get bonuses, they don't get shares, or they may get a bonus but they don't get any points in the sales of a game.
I think it depends on the company, I think the company you're currently talking about does do that, and they have a very nice parking lot.
Well, good for them. I'm very glad.
Okay,
but
here's the thing.
It's not the same across the board. And
not defending Cliff, because we'll just say the name since we all know who we're talking about here, right?
It's Cliffington.
I don't think, and I think this is the confusion, right? I think gamers are taking the no DRM thing really is against them, and it's the used game. I don't think most developers are concerned with gamers. They're really concerned with GameStop. And the fact of the matter is, and we could do this, and we talked about this last night, and I've been kicked out of GameStops for doing this. You go in, and I go, hey, do you have Animal Crossing? And they go, yeah, it's here's the new version, and it's $34.99, or you can buy a used one for $32.99, and it's the same game.
I'm not defending GameStop, all right?
That's the but I think that's the problem that developers currently have, is that when you go into a retail store,
look, I'm not,
and you ask to buy a game, the employees are trained to go, don't buy it new, buy it used.
because they make 50% more.
They make 50% more, and it's a $2 to $3 price difference. Like, I was just I swung by last night after actually having this discussion in our office, and you could buy The Last of Us for $3 less used right now. And that's where I think developers have a problem. And is it an issue that people aren't saving the game and making games that you want to play forever? Yeah, fair. Total fair point. I don't think the developers have issues with gamers as much as they do with these giant companies. And this goes back to complaints I've had for years. When every time a developer complains to me about it, I go, but you're training gamers. You're training them to go in to a GameStop to get an exclusive DLC, an exclusive whatever, right? Armor, map, t-shirt, magazine, whatever it is. And when they go in, because you say, hey, if you want the coolest, best edition of our game, you have to buy it from there. And as you're paying for it, the guy behind the counter goes, after, when you're finished with that, remember to come back and sell it, and we'll buy it from you. So they create this. It's an ugly cycle where no one knows how to get out of this circle of
So
death
basically,
right now.
what we're saying is that the publishers and the developers are their own worst enemy.
Well, that's always been the case.
So yes, there is a problem with GameStop. I don't like a lot of the GameStop practices. I think a lot of people who work for GameStop at the sharp end of it get a lot of shit, and it's not their fault.
No, I've
yeah.
worked retail, and I've had
I've never worked retail in a chain. I've worked it in a mom and pop.
I've done like retail, but I've done movies and DVDs and CDs, and it was always the same. Where you go, we had to sell 25 of our cards a day. We had to sell 50 gift cards. We had to sell 40 memberships. And if we didn't, we would get marked up. And it's like, so these guys are forced to do that.
Well, the industry has created this sort of like symbiotic relationship.
Monsters.
Where they do rely on each other. So, let's face it. We do know that we have, for example, there is Amazon, there are outlets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you sell used games on Amazon now?
As in a marketplace, you can. As a user, and I know a lot of people that sell their games on eBay because they're getting straight cash out of it instead of, either credit, or maybe they don't want it right now. Maybe they want to sell their game and go buy a DVD instead of. Or because music or whatever,
people
right?
Can't afford to buy 10, 20 games a year, especially in this current climate when we're looking at $60. I would say that, look, I've been in a position where I've traded in games to get the newer ones. I would certainly say that, yes, the industry with regards to publishers is certainly at fault, not only for the points you made, but when you keep on churning out yearly iterations of the same fucking product, where it's like, all right, well, the single player was 6 hours, but I really bought it for multiplayer, and now the multiplayer is obsolete because they've brought out a new one. I'm just, I'm gonna go and trade this in, and then it's gonna be out there. That is an issue for me. I don't need to see Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, and every other iteration of a game that comes out on an annual basis. If they are smart, and this is where I think a strong single-player component comes in, make it strong. Have your digitally, the expansion packs, the downloadable content. Have them come out. Go the Bethesda route. I think Bethesda have really sort of like nailed how to execute this. They have their big launches.
Those guys have done a really great
2K
job.
2K as well. But you have these games. You have the DRM, DLC come out, and it's keeps people from trading that game in, and you get additional context. Let's face it, nobody wants, unless a game absolutely sucks, nobody really wants to trade in an old game, because it's always nice to go back and play it. Shit, I keep on going back and playing Crackdown, which is aging terribly, but I still have a bunch of fun with it. But Skyrim, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3. I mean, these titles show that if you have some sort of decent value for money, and I'm not talking about the Capcom route. I'm not talking about we're going to sell you the disc with the DLC already on it, and then we're going to charge you to unlock it. But I'm talking about adding this stuff. That's where you build the customer base. That's where you make the money year in, year out. And that's where, when the games are always, you look at Bethesda's games, they're there or thereabouts when it comes to game of year in, year out.
They're always in the top 5. They're always
more so
nominated.
than Activision.
Yep.
More so than EA nowadays. Because these other companies have gone the route of, all right, we're going to monetize just for the sake of monetizing with microtransactions. We're going to have yearly iterations of the same thing. I think those very top-end publishers are creating an instability for themselves that they are going to crumble. And I don't think they'll take the industry with them.
No, and I
think they will just go and they'll go over a cliff, and then we will see hopefully a leveling out of the playing field. And like I said, that could be reduce the desire to trade games in.
So the solution for used games next gen: make good RPGs.
Make good RPGs. Hell, make good. If you want to make a good first-person shooter, that's a military one. Yeah, have the multiplayer component. Make sure you get lots of content updating. Don't do the same fucking thing every year where you just change up the graphics. Right. Make it a 2-year cycle, and then people are going to be less inclined to trade that shit in.
But we've all seen the numbers, like on stuff like Call of Duty, like how few people actually even touch single player. Like they don't even. What is it? Like half the audience doesn't even attempt to launch single player. They jump right into multiplayer.
I think
I think there's different games for different people. Like we like RPGs. There's guys on our floor, and there's guys that all they do is play Call of Duty, and that's great.
And I would say since Modern Warfare, the first one,
yep.
After that, single player in Call of Duty is nothing to write home about,
right?
Because there's no, and that's a problem. People would touch it if it was good enough.
I don't think they would. I don't think most people do. I think a lot of people want to play. They don't care. They just want to get their Prestige 12 going, and they play. I mean, we have friends that are upstairs that take time off when Call of Duty comes out and have their first Prestige in by the first week, whatever, right? Yeah. I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about.
Some of them are actually have relationships as well. Some of them are actually married.
Yeah, it's crazy.
To real people.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I think it's just, there's this weird, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is when we talk about, right now we keep using this term core, right? And what is a core gamer? And, start appealing to the core. Has the core changed? Are Call of Duty players the core gamers now?
I think the new casual has changed.
To what though?
I think it's
is it the new casual? Is that Call of Duty player? I mean, I don't know the answer
my mind,
to this.
Kind of, yeah.
It's the mid-core gamer, isn't it?
It's like mid
casual
right?
core.
Yeah, it's this weird
softcore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's this weird middle ground where there's guys you would the core, the guys that are playing 200 hours of Skyrim like we did, or Dark Souls, right? And then you have this hardcore where I have cousins that are casuals that they would never pick a Call of Duty. But the Call of Duty guys would never float down to those casual games, that they're never actually going to float up to those hard. It's just this weird. I think we keep using this casual and core where there's way more.
Well, some of us have been using the term mid-core for at least a year and a half.
But I'm just saying. I'm saying the industry as a whole.
The industry as a whole, you're right,
is using these two terms that I don't actually think represent the industry anymore. And I think this goes back to Xbox's reveal, where they thought they were going after their core audience, right? You sign on to Xbox Live, you sign on, half my friends are watching Netflix, Call of Duty, or Battlefield, depending on when it's out, or whatever the new multiplayer game is, and very few are playing what we would consider core games.
I only have, 15 friends on Xbox Live, just the way I like it.
Just like in real life.
Sorry, so let's wrap this little segment up, because I do want to talk to Patrick about State of Decay in a minute.
Sure.
So after what's happened this week, and I think this is going to be an ongoing topic, because I think next week we should probably even look at what can Sony do, and what can Nintendo do, because we don't want to forget them, and I think we'll save that one for another week. But as of right now, after everything that's happened with E3, the announcements, the prices, Xbox One, or PS4, Patrick?
Really? Is that even a question at this point?
You know, some people have been convinced. Some people have changed it up. So,
Well, like I've said, I feel like they haven't even worked their way back to zero yet. In my mind, it would take a lot for me to even consider an Xbone, even though it is, like looking back at E3, people like to say, well, the Sony undoubtedly won, but did they really? Like, I mean, I know, yes, they did win, but it's not really as large a margin as everyone thought. They didn't have that many cool games exclusively. Like, a lot of the cool stuff that we want to play are multi-platform.
yeah.
I mean, I
coming
think
next year.
I think the winner of E3 was actually current gen.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Kind
it's
of.
all, like, let's be
I've
honest.
said that the PS3 has the best lineup of anybody this holiday season.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to what you were saying, like PS4 still. But for me, I feel like I'm not gonna get a PS4 at launch. I feel like the PC I made is still really awesome, and it's gonna play a lot of those games that they're hyping up. So, yeah.
Jeremy?
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh yeah.
See, now that's the ultimate and always on, isn't it?
What's the Mad Cat system?
Oh, I don't. Let's not even go there. No,
Jaguar 2.
I've said it multiple times. I pre-ordered both. Why? Because I would like them on launch day if I decide to get them. And the way that Amazon does their pre-orders is you don't pay until it ships. So I have 6 months to make that decision. That's what I've always said. Like, we don't have all the information from either of these guys, and it's gonna be. I have to assume there's guys over at Sony right now shaking because they may have some bad information that has to come out and they just don't know when to reveal it, because it's like it's what it's
2015.
it's the whole Icarus thing, right? Like you get a little too close to the sun and those wings are gonna melt. So I don't know what we don't know the information for either of these guys right now.
Yeah.
I've heard there's still more launch games to be announced for both consoles. I've heard.
Well, we still have Gamescom, we have Tokyo Game Show, we have PAX, and we have Comic-Con.
We have Comic-Con, we've got
and
launch events and their own events that they're going to have.
Yeah.
And we have months and months and months. And if this week has been an example where it was a slow news week until 2 o'clock yesterday, I think we've got a roller coaster ahead of us, and I'm in for both, at least until we figure out what information is going to come out. And really, I don't care about either console. I'm console agnostic. I want games. And neither of them for launch have games I truly care about. Listen, if both those guys are coming out in the first week in November, the game I'll be playing is Batman still. So,
do you gonna play that A3?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. We'll talk about that.
I'll be playing. I'll be playing
that.
Batman over both the new consoles.
I managed to break it. I managed to fly through a building, and basically somebody left a window open or something. I flew in, I couldn't get back out, and I scared the poor guy because he follows a Night Gamer and thought I was going to rip him a new one.
So what Jeremy's trying to say is that PC Master Race wins again, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
According to the internet, they've always won.
Okay,
they've never
Just making sure.
No, but it's like I think right now games are going to win. The games are going to be what matters. I don't think...
The only thing that holds PC back is that we end up with generic ports a month after for a lot of companies.
And you're not going to get any of those Sony games. Like
sucks.
the thing that's nice about Microsoft is usually when they're making a game, they're going to put it
Microsoft
on PC.
exclusive.
Like you're never going to see The Last of Us on
There's not
PC.
really a Microsoft game over the last 5 years that I actually want to play on my
Titanfall?
PC. That's not a first-party game, Jeremy.
Oh, true.
That is coming out on PC as well, even if it does. And honestly, if it does mean Origin, fuck it, I'll take Origin over Xbox. No, I pre-ordered the PS4 after the press conference, the Sony one. I stand by that. Mm-hmm. I have put a pre-order in on Amazon for Xbox One, but my finger is permanently over that cancel button. And right now, it's simply because I know that this, when we hit that time of year, I'm going to need to be up on these consoles. I don't want to pay for an Xbox One right now. I reserve the right to cancel, go PS4, PS3, Xbox 360, and PC for the next 3 years and have a fucking whale of a time. Anyway, all right, we have a couple of minutes before we get to the, we shut it down. State of Decay. Mm-hmm. My Twitter feed has been spooging over this for the last week or so.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, it's one of those games came out, I think, just before E3.
Yeah, about a week or so before.
Yeah, but was obviously, buried in all the not buried, but, it kind of got run
Lost
over.
in the shuffle.
Yeah.
It comes back to life.
Well, it is a zombie game. It's a PC game. Mm-hmm. Obviously, people have been going Last of Us mental. So, sell me on it. Sell me on it.
Okay, I think the one line that I have in the review that kind of sticks with me is that it is simultaneously the worst and best zombie game you've ever played for different reasons. It is the worst because it's probably the glitchiest game that's come out, in the last year or so. Tons of bugs. It doesn't look very good, to be honest. It kind of runs on a really kind of rudimentary engine. Not very flattering on its first impression. But at the same time, once you get into it, once you start playing it, you realize that it does a lot of cool things that I feel like a lot of zombie games kind of miss on a fundamental level, which is the survival fantasy. I feel like, anytime you have Call of Duty introducing zombie mode, or, Dead Rising, where you're going around just killing things with your cool chainsaw, hammer, bat, gun, lawnmower contraption, it kind of misses out on the idea that you have to survive in this world, not just kick ass. And I think that's one of the big things that I love about State of Decay. It really kind of puts you in this position where you have to think about your next step. It's not just about killing things, it's about also surviving and, making a long haul in this kind of weird world.
So this is obviously one of the things I've sort of like blathered on about for years, and I know people will talk about, was it the Warzy and
Daisy?
Daisy.
I think I'm just going to name change today
I
as
think
well.
it did.
Did it?
Yeah, I think they did a little rebranding.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Which means...
Which one, though?
It's called Infestation, or something like that.
Oh, the Warzy.
Warzy?
Named. Yeah.
The bad one, says
Yeah.
Chris
Bad
off
one.
screen.
But I mean, this is the thing. I've sort of like, it's almost like that Walking Dead experience where it is more than just a shooter.
Yeah.
And it is, you are stealth can pay off as much. And this is what I liked about The Last of Us to a large degree. And that is that, where you have your shooter sections, but you do have the stealth and you feel immersed in this world. And is that the vibe that we're looking at here, where it is, you are looking around, you are, sometimes when there's a horde of zombies shuffling by, you need to sort of like just not move. And
I wouldn't say it's so much like that, because when it comes to actual, mechanics and engaging zombies, it's actually pretty simple. But you're a big fan of tac sims, right? I feel like this kind of takes a similar approach, not in that it's a tactical shooter, but then it takes, but in the sense that it takes, the container of a zombie game, and kind of infuses it with all these tactical elements that enrich the overall experience. In this case, a big part of the game is actually building up a safe haven, kind of creating your homestead. And the idea is that you have 16 square kilometers of open world land to traverse, and everywhere you'll see hot spots like a church or maybe a ranger station or a gas station. And the idea is that you could inhabit any of those locations as your home base, essentially. And it's up to you to gather resources, supplies, food, and even other survivors that randomly spawn around the map, and build your own kind of homestead, your community of survivors. And the idea is that you're trying to survive for as long as you can and smartly utilize what you have available to you and kind of building your fortress. And that's what is really cool to me.
cool. All right. Have you played it?
I have not. I've watched a little bit. I haven't had any time. Probably.
No, I know.
Since the Xbox reveal, it's been all E3 all the time. I finally got a little bit of time to play Last of Us. I have Animal Crossing sitting there. I also want to play, which is, I feel like, the most bipolar gaming experience ever. It's like super happy and then just the most depressing game. So I have not. I have watched a lot of you guys playing it upstairs as I walk by. It looks like the type of game I do want to try out. I just have no time.
Yeah, it does give you a very poor kind of first impression, but it's actually really cool once,
Well, I think the
once you
first thing I
experience
said
it.
is, why are you still playing this?
Yeah,
Because
right.
it just doesn't come off as looking great.
It doesn't, yeah.
And I think it's one of those games you really just have to play.
Well, I've spoken to guys who've completed it twice now since it came out, and it's like that's definitely a sign that I need to get it installed on my machine.
Oh, here's some next gen shit that not even BioShock Infinite does. So one cool thing that I like about the game is that so as you're doing these little missions, if you're doing like supply runs at night, the person at your tower is going to radio in and kind of give you an update of what's going on. But if you get assaulted by a zombie, your character actually goes, "Wait, hold on," and the conversation stops until you
Nice.
kill the zombie, and then your guy goes, "Okay, now where were we?"
Oh,
That's
cool.
cool.
And it
That's
continues.
cool.
So there's a bunch of cool. I think that's very symptomatic of the game as a whole. There's a lot of cool ideas behind it. The execution may not be quite as polished as we're used to seeing with The Last of Us, but I think that it's a super solid game that people should check out.
All right, I will do. Okay, that's the show for this week.
I got one more thing.
One
more
what?
thing. Because no one was listening to my Twitter rant last night at
Twitter
1:30
rant?
in the morning. Can we just have some more games with dinosaurs in them? Please?
This is-
dinosaurs? Please, people?
Chris, back on camera.
I
Back
just
on
don't
me.
understand.
Did Battlefield ever deliver?
No, it's like there should be dinosaur RPGs, dinosaur shooters, dinosaur sims. Where are the fucking dinosaurs at?
Blood Dragon. That's the show for this week. Thank you very much. We will be back next week. Ryan, enjoy yourself in Ibiza, because I know you're basically getting up at 2 a.m. or getting in from the club to go to watch this show. We'll be back in a week or so with hopefully more stuff to talk about.
Kittens controlling cybernetic dinosaurs.
You're still on it.
Come on, people. Dinosaurs.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.